They give me these taillights.
glass bottles that winemakers are using, those tend to come from China. They might come from Eastern Europe. Corks are going to come from Portugal. They're going to come from Spain. And so really every little part of the industry is going to ripple through in terms of costs for consumers.
And what about for you personally? I mean, you also run a wine education business that's brought people from different walks of life and cultures together. I understand you've lost enrollees. What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting. I mean, I'm just going to say, you know, we are here and we have every intention of surviving and continuing to teach people about wine and the wines of the world in this industry. But it's true, you know, we had a student last week. We teach people from all over the world because many of our classes are online as well. And we have one program. It's a very long program, a couple of years long. And a student wrote in and said, "Gee, I love your programming, love being part of the school." She's Canadian, but because of the friction between our countries, I've decided to take business elsewhere and probably will use a European provider to finish my program. So, you know, it's sad for us. It's deeply, deeply sad, and we will miss her. But also, I have to say, I understand how she feels.
Jessica, stay with us. I want to also bring in Rob Mara, the owner of Mara Flooring and Design. Rob, thanks for joining us. I know you come at this from a completely different industry in which you import a lot of your raw materials from Canada and from Europe. What's your biggest concern about how these tariffs could affect your bottom line?
A lot of our products do come from Vietnam, since a lot of them have gotten shifted from China over to Vietnam. So that is going to play an impact on a lot of our pricing and a lot of our shipping costs. You know, it's tough to say the full impact it's going to have. We did get some letters on Friday that some cost of goods are going up between 30 and 35% at the end of the month if these tariffs do continue to go through. You know, if the things we heard over the weekend that Vietnam hopefully has worked something out with the U.S., that those won't come into place, that'll definitely help us. But, you know, right now it's just a matter of supporting a lot of small businesses because we're going to try and keep, you know, our costs down and not increase our prices if the tariffs do continue in place.
Yeah, and you don't know how long this is going to impact your businesses. If you could meet with President Trump this afternoon, Rob, what would you say to him, and what is your reaction to the White House's dismissal of the gravity of it all, saying, quote, sometimes you just have to take medicine?
Well, I don't mind if there's a greater good. I don't mind taking the punches and doing my part. There's just a lot of uncertainty. You know, are the tariffs going to work? It was too much all at once. It's a hard thing to say and it's a hard thing to understand. But you know, if there's a greater goal at the end, great. But is there going to be a process we all have to go through, you know, to get to that end goal? You know, if it goes too long, it can be tough. And, you know, I hope that he understands, and I think he does, that, you know, there is an impact on a lot of people, and especially on small businesses. And hopefully we can continue to get through it and, you know, hopefully surpass the impact that it possibly could have on all of us.
Yeah, we really hope that as well. Rob Mara and Jessica Scully, I'd love to stay in touch with you over the days and weeks and months to come, sending you our best and good luck with it all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. That does it for us today. I'm Ana Cabrera reporting from New York. Jose Diaz-Balart picks up our coverage right after this.
Known for creating memories. No one wants to be known for cancer, but a treatment can be. Keytruda is known to treat cancer. FDA approved for 18 types of cancer, including certain early stage and advanced cancers. One of those cancers is a kind of bladder and urinary tract cancer called advanced urothelial cancer. Keytruda may be used with the medicine enfortumab vedotin in adults when your bladder or urinary tract cancer has spread or cannot be removed by surgery.
Keytruda can cause your immune system to attack healthy parts of your body during or after treatment. This may be severe and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you have cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, diarrhea, severe stomach pain, nausea or vomiting, headache, light sensitivity, eye problems, irregular heartbeat, extreme tiredness, constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in appetite, thirst or urine, confusion, memory problems, persistent or severe muscle pain or weakness, muscle cramps, fever, rash, itching or flushing. There may be other side effects. Tell your doctor about all medical conditions, including immune or nervous system problems, such as Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, lupus, or myasthenia gravis, or Guillain-Barré syndrome, an organ, tissue, or stem cell transplant, or receive chest radiation. Keytruda can harm your unborn baby.
Keytruda is an immunotherapy and is also being studied in hundreds of clinical trials, exploring ways to treat even more types of cancer. It's true, Keytruda. See all the types of cancer Keytruda is known for at Keytruda.com and ask your doctor if Keytruda could be right for you.
You want high-performance, long-lasting, affordable tools. You want Harbor Freight tools. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight. Save like never before at Spring Black Friday.
Doctors recommend Colay stool softener for gentle, dependable relief from constipation. It's so gentle, doctors even recommend it during pregnancy and after surgery. Colay's increases water in the stool, making it softer so it's easier to go. No harsh laxatives, cramping or straining. Colay's.
AI can turn your lights on and drive your car and even write your kid's essay. But AI ain't gonna fix your broken water line or pay for the big repair bill. Having a plan from HomeServe offers real solutions, and when a covered system breaks, we'll send a qualified contractor and pay for the repair. There's nothing artificial about the peace of mind you get with a plan from HomeServe. Getting one is quite intelligent.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-833-812-1903 or visit homeserve.com.
Want the effects of Viagra, but faster? Meet Rose Sparks. They contain sildenafil and tadalafil, the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis. But Sparks dissolve under the tongue. Dissolvables work faster than old school pills. Plus, tadalafil, the active ingredient in Cialis, stays in your system for long-lasting results. We got you. Connect with a medical provider at ro.co/sparks.
Good morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. I'm Jose Diaz-Boy. We begin with breaking news on the economy, where the markets are down mostly for a third day as President Trump's sweeping tariffs continue to rattle investors around the globe. Take a look at the chart there. The S&P 500 is really flat. It's up 0.06. Right now it's down, but it's pretty much flat. The Dow, though, is at also almost flat. The Dow, we saw it just this morning since it opened. It was up a bit, then it went way down, and now back to down 0.75. The Nasdaq's up 0.65. We're talking essentially flatlining, but the variation on these numbers has been humongous over the last 3 days, but also just in the last couple of hours. It comes after a free fall in the markets last week. The S&P cratering 10% in just 2 days. Despite the market turbulence, the president doubled down on his agenda last night.
Is there pain in the market at some point you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of what Trump won? Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
Meanwhile, we're now starting to hear from seniors concerned that all of this may be having an impact on their retirement. Take a listen to some.
I'm trying to lower my expenses because I think we very much could be going into a recession.
It is a shock, and I actually expected things maybe start hitching up today. To see it drop some more is a little disconcerting. And so, yeah, what will tomorrow bring? Who knows?
Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Stephanie Ruhle, NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor, and Henrietta Trey's managing partner and director of economic policy research at Veda Partners. She worked with the U.S. Senate Finance, Banking, and Budget Committee and helped create policy solutions aimed at recovering from the 2008 recession. So, Stephanie, just this morning, since the open of the market, up a bit, up quite a bit, dropping down 1,600 plus points, now back essentially. What's going on?
Investors are desperately trying to figure out what is President Trump doing, right? There was a moment this morning when we thought maybe he was going to put a pause on the tariffs. You know, he's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. So the thought is, well, maybe if they come up with a more attractive deal for Israel, maybe that'll be the first of many. But at the end of the day, it's confusion, Jose, and the markets are up and the markets are down. You know, they're trying to figure out, well, who's in the room with President Trump? Is it Scott Bessent, who isn't a super pro-tariff guy, or is it Peter Navarro, who's all about the tariffs? And that's the biggest problem. And it's the biggest problem for other countries who are our trading partners. It's the biggest problem for CEOs who run companies here and investors. They're looking to understand
What's the trusted information? What's the long-term goal and plan from this administration? Even within the administration, you get conflicting messages. If we all watched the Sunday shows yesterday, you'd watch Peter Navarro believing these tariffs are going to be on for the long haul and they're going to bring in trillions of dollars into this country. But if you listen to the likes of Howard Lutnick or Scott Bessent, they make it sound like where we are is just a starting point with the tariffs and maybe they're going to go down. So if you're an investor looking to invest in the market, you need to know what's in store. And if you're a CEO and you're being told, trying to bring back manufacturing, are you really going to invest billions of dollars to build some plant here when it's going to be done in 3 to 5 years when Donald Trump will not be in office? We don't know what the tariffs will look like or what any of the policies will be. And if you're another country, especially one that used to be our ally, if you're Canada, if you're Mexico, if you're anyone in the European Union, you're saying the United States, the democracy that I depended on as a partner and a trading superpower for all these years, can I still depend on them? Because last I checked, the United States has gotten more and more comfortable with executive orders, and it's not just unique to President Trump, also with President Biden, but Donald Trump is now ruling by executive order, not Congress. So how can you know what the policies are going to be? How can you have a trusted trading partner when things could change on a dime? And the answer is you can't, which is when you look at one thing, the dollar, it continues to weaken because people are losing trust in the United States of America.
And let's talk about that, Henrietta, the global reaction to what's going on. I mean, it's having effects on markets around the world. Trading was halted temporarily in Japan, in Taiwan, in South Korea today. How much damage has already been done?
I mean, I have to pile on here. $7 trillion worth of market cap just traded in 30 minutes. There is rampant chaos. So much so that Audi is actually just announced that they're not even going to unload the vehicles that are on their container ships to bring them into American soil because they don't know whether they need to charge American consumers 25% more on the cars today or if it'll be off tomorrow. And that's really the underlying problem here, is that the lack of cohesive strategy around the president's executive order trade agendas, as you just point out, are really what is creating this market inability to price in what will come from here. And what I'm trying to tell clients today and investors is that if you want Congress to send a message to try to exert any of its lingering trade authority here, you've got T-minus 4 days. On Thursday, they're going to be gone for the Easter and Passover recesses, and they will be out of commission, out of DC for a month. And this is going to be exclusively Trump's domain to do what he will with these tariffs.
And so, Yamiche, does the White House see what we're hearing this morning, that there is a lack of cohesive strategy coming out of the executive on this?
Well, the White House is saying the president is really doubling down on his view that this is the right strategy forward and that he believes that this is not a mistake, that this is going to be a short-term issue. They're not giving a timeline. The president also pushed back when he was asked whether or not there was a threshold that he would take and whether or not if things got too bad that he might back away and lower some of these tariffs. He called it actually a stupid question to even ask whether or not there was a threshold. But also we've seen top White House aides and top Trump aides out talking about this. Take a listen to what they've said.
Americans who want to retire right now, the Americans who have put away for years in their savings accounts, I think don't look at the day-to-day fluctuations of what's happening.
We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, and the rest of the world has a surplus with us. They're earning our money, they're taking our money, right. And Donald Trump has seen this, and he's going to stop it.
I think we'll see in short order really positive outcome from this. We already have 50 countries that have come to the table over the last few days, over the last weeks, that are willing and desperate to talk to us.
Now, Jose, I should also tell you that I've talked to a number of White House officials, including one who told me that they're not even concerned about the optics of the president golfing in South Florida while these markets are having this strain. One person telling me it's like going to a birthday party when your friend has had surgery, making the case that President Trump isn't overly concerned about the economy. The president has also been out this morning. Here's what he wrote. The United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panic, a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. Now, I should also tell you that I've been talking to people that are worried about their retirement funds, people that have retired or are about to retire. People are definitely checking their 401ks. People are definitely panicking and very, very worried because they're not sure whether or not there's going to be a sort of strategy at some point on how to stop all of this. The president is saying that he's negotiating with a number of countries. I've heard Poland, Vietnam, Cambodia, Israel. Of course, the prime minister is visiting the White House today, so we'll see some of those negotiations also happening, Jose.
The leader of Taiwan just posted a little while ago that there is some movement in the tariffs and reciprocal tariffs between Taiwan and the United States. So there is some movement. But Stephanie, what do you tell, meanwhile, folks that do look at their 401ks or do look at the trillions of dollars losses just in these last 5 days?
Jose, it's completely reasonable and rational for people to check their 401ks. And it's a tough pill to swallow to hear the Treasury Secretary, somebody who's worth, $500 million, say people aren't paying attention to that. Right? That's the same thing we heard from the Commerce Secretary a few weeks ago, who said if his mother-in-law didn't get a Social Security check for a month, she wouldn't really check. Sure, she wouldn't check for a month because her son-in-law is worth over $2 billion. But for everyday Americans, many of those who voted for Donald Trump, they are concerned about this. And it's not just everyday Americans, CEOs are, right? It was just a few months ago that Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, said, listen, tariffs are a tool, we use them. We certainly saw President Biden use them, and they can be used strategically and surgically. But fast forward today, Jamie Dimon is sending out his annual letter worried that the use of these tariffs in the way that they're being used could be the cause of a global recession, could cause serious slowdown in the economy. And for those who say, well, the markets are different from the economy, of course they are. But when you now have bank after bank predicting a recession is just simply not the stock market. It is the overall economy, and it will hurt all of us.
Yamiche Halsendor, Henrietta Treyz, and of course Stephanie Ruhle. Thank you. You can watch Stephanie Ruhle tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern on the 11th hour right here on MSNBC. And Stephanie, it's always great seeing you. Henrietta, and of course Yamiche. Thank you. In 90 seconds, pushback over President Trump's tariffs. We'll talk to a lawyer from a conservative-backed nonprofit who's suing the administration, claiming tariffs are illegal. Plus, deportation deadline. The Trump administration has just over 12 hours to return a man mistakenly deported to a notorious El Salvador prison, and later protests in the streets. Mass demonstrations sweep the country.
We're going to fight because the Democrats and the Republicans have both let us down. They've let us down, and we, the people, have the power.
Upset stomach? Iberogast. Indigestion? Iberogast. Bloating? Iberogast. Thanks to a unique combination of herbs, Iberogast helps relieve 6 digestive symptoms to help you feel better. 6 digestive symptoms, the power of nature. Iberogast.
TikTok literally helped Dano's 45 team members in Louisville, Kentucky.
There's no way I'd be able to support this building or any of my employees without TikTok. It's not just about me anymore.
TikTok brings in so much foot traffic. To be able to have 28 employees and everybody's paid well, it's just a blessing.
Liberty Mutual is all she talks about since we saved hundreds by bundling our home and auto insurance.
Hey kid, it's pronounced Liberty.
Liberty.
Liberty. Liberty. Liberty. No, she's mocking me. Very mature.
Hey, that's enough, you two.
Hey, I'm not the one acting like a total baby.
She's two.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, liberty, liberty.
Liberty.
.com. Renters will start coming out of the woodwork.
Single family home? Yes, please.
Spacious.
Apartments.com.
A place to list a place.
12 past the hour. Right now, the markets are pretty much flat. As you can see there, the S&P 500 is flat. Dow's just over 1 point drop. Nasdaq's actually 0.02 or minus 0.02, depending on the millisecond that we're looking at it. But all of this has to do with the president's new tariff policy. The president's escalating trade war is drawing new scrutiny from a conservative legal nonprofit. The group, the New Civil Liberties Alliance, or NCLA, has filed a complaint on behalf of a Florida-based stationery company over the legality of the president's tariffs on all Chinese imports. Joining us now, Andrew Morris, Senior Litigation Counsel of the New Civil Liberties Alliance. Thank you very much, Andrew, for being with us this morning. Why do you think this tariff policy is unlawful?
Our case challenges the president's effort to impose across-the-board tariffs on China and other countries by using emergency powers under executive order. That's what we challenge as illegal. And that is, he does that to bypass the tariff laws. So this is the president has imposed certain tariffs through executive order under emergency powers rather than complying with the tariff laws. Congress controls tariffs and has passed a whole set of tariff laws that impose conditions and requirements before the president can impose tariffs. And they require certain procedures and they limit the kind of tariffs the president can impose. The president has skipped over all of those laws and declared a national emergency, which I can talk about in a second, and based on that national emergency, issued an executive order imposing these tariffs on China, as well as on Canada and on Mexico, our three largest trading partners. The problem
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And the problem is that the emergency statute that the president cites, which I can explain, does not authorize the president to impose tariffs. And I think you'll find it telling, as I did when I found out, that this has never been done before. No president has ever tried to declare a national emergency and impose tariffs, which are a tax on Americans. So this case focuses on misuse of the emergency powers.
Let me, if I could, Andrew, if I could. Sorry. Don't mean to interrupt you. Just to get some clarity for me, I just like to understand things in a basic level. So, is it not true, Andrew, that presidents have forever, or for a long time, and I'm thinking JFK and Johnson, and going all the way down the line, haven't they established executive orders on tariffs?
They have not imposed new tariffs using executive orders and using emergency powers. They have exercised certain powers that Congress assigned the president through tariff statutes. And those require certain administrative procedures, and they set specific requirements before the president can impose a tariff. For example, one statute will say if a certain country is engaging in unfair trade practices, then the president can show that's true and then impose a tariff relating to that country, relating to the industry that's affected by the trade practices. The Congress has not authorized the president to use this emergency statute to say, oh, there's an emergency relating to fentanyl here, for example, and then impose across-the-board tariffs on China. That is a first. And this emergency statute, which has a long name, but the first two words are the critical ones, International Emergency Economic Powers Act, is a statute Congress passed so presidents can act quickly and protect us from foreign threats. And that's a statute the presidents have used for things like sanctioning hostile foreign countries, Russia, Iran, terrorist organizations. And the statute permits the president to do things like impose trade sanctions, freeze assets of hostile countries, or of terrorist groups. That statute does not permit the president to use emergency powers to impose taxes on Americans, which is what tariffs are. So the president is ignoring the language of that statute.
I very much appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
New developments this hour in the case of the man the administration says was deported to El Salvador, that maximum security prison, by mistake. What the Trump administration is now asking the Supreme Court to do. Plus, the fears and concerns of so many California farm workers, the president's mass deportation efforts.
They're the backbone of agriculture in our country. Nobody is going to be able to do what they do.
For a
fire, 1 fire extinguisher beats 10 buckets of water. And for 0 heartburn, 1 Prilosec a day beats taking up to 10 antacids a day. It's that simple. For 24-hour heartburn relief, 1 beats 10. Prilosec OTC.
Hi, Grandma. I played baseball today.
Oh, that's great.
What position did you play?
First base.
That's what Grandpa used to play. When our hearing wouldn't allow us to use a regular phone, it made us feel isolated.
It became difficult to communicate with our friends and family.
Clear captions was an easy solution for us.
Clear Captions provides captions on a phone, like captioning on your TV, so you can see what the caller is saying live as they say it.
Making it easy to understand and respond immediately.
There is no insurance or Medicare required. Clear Caption service is provided at no cost to you through a federally funded program. We deliver.
Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.
We must stop the terror. Now watch this drive.
Dropping like the stock market. All right, power panel here on the Young Turks Chamber. We're John Only, Yasmin Khan, Yasmin on headquarters, John on damage report. We got a whole heap of news for you guys. Obviously, tariffs have ripped through the economy, the stock market, done a tremendous damage. And so which Republicans are in favor of it? Which ones are against it? What lunatic ideas do they have to be in favor of it? We'll explain all of that. Mark Zuckerberg kissing up to Donald Trump, AOC versus Chuck Schumer. And the polling on that is really interesting and surprising. So we got a lot of news for you guys today. So John, take it away.
Yeah, even within the topic of just tariffs, we have a lot. So why don't we jump into it? We're going to be largely talking about people who I think can be real about the tariffs, and then we'll get to those who are mostly paid to pretend that they think it's a good idea. But let's start with the realists, beginning with this.
I'm not going to bubble wrap it. What's happening is not good. Now, will it continue? Will we find the bottom and then it will start to go back up? I hope so.
The markets are down about 8% in just 2 days, and I'm getting all kinds of reaction from businesses, farmers in Wisconsin that are highly concerned about what's happening. So those are the facts.
Yeah, those are the facts, and at least a couple of Republican senators can point that out. Actually, slightly more than a couple. We have a third. I guess that's progress. Rand Paul has also been speaking out against it. In fact, he wrote an op-ed for Fox titled "Terminate the Trump Tariffs Before It's Too Late." It's pretty clear, and it reads in part, tariffs are not just bad for American families and the national economy. Tariffs are also bad for Republicans. The McKinley tariff of 1890 caused such a spike in prices that the Republican Party lost nearly 100 seats in the House. And by the end of the next election, the House, the Senate, and the White House were all in Democratic hands. And of course, we saw a version of that in the first Trump term, and he hadn't even totally tanked the economy to get to that point. So I understand why Rand Paul would be a little bit worried here, particularly when they're not hypothesizing about something that could maybe happen in a week or a month or in a year. We're watching it every moment. As of just today, stocks dropped for the second straight day. The Dow Jones was down another 2,200 points, or about 5.5%. The drop ended the worst trading week since March 2020. I don't know why they marked March 2020. Was anything big happening then? I don't really remember that time. Maybe there was something significant that affected the economy. But the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 also closed down 5.8% and 5.9%. I want everyone to remember, while this week has been devastating for the stock market, it's not like the year so far has been great. We've already had minor shocks every other time Trump implied he'd be doing tariffs like this. So far, Jake, the numbers don't look great.
Yeah, and they're never going to look great because this is dumb. So we'll explain why it's dumb. The question isn't whether to tariff or not to tariff. The question is, how do you do it? And this ain't it. And so I'll tell you we'll talk about what went wrong and what I think is going to happen next, because this is untenable. They can't have the stock market drop 1,000 to 2,000 points every day and be like, no, we're fine, nothing's wrong here. And we have a poll for you guys. Were you expecting Republicans to come out against these tariffs? Yes or no? That's in the live chat. Curious what you guys think. That's an easy one for me. I said that a lot of people on the right would come out against Trump in 1,000 different ways. In this term, I was told that was impossible, and no Republican would ever come out against Trump on any issue. Interesting. Well, looks like there's plenty. John.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for them to have stopped him the way they did the first term. That would be great. They were actually largely successful there. But yeah, maybe it's the beginning of something. I mean, you've got 3 now. That's something potentially you can build on, especially as the stock market gets worse, maybe.
Yeah, and just look, there's more. There's like among the influencers, there's Dave Portnoy and many others. We'll get to all that too. But what John just said there is super important. That's why I jumped back in. Look, guys, in a little bit, I'm going to tell you guys about why things are so off the rails now versus the first Trump term where there was 1,000 things wrong, but the economy didn't collapse in the first 3 years. What's the difference maker? That's in this story.
Yeah.
So, John, go.
Well, we will later get to people who are speaking out in support of this, but a lot of those, even those that you might have expected would, because that's kind of like what their job is, aren't choosing to do so. And we're going to begin with, I think, a perfect example of that, which is Scott Jennings.
He firmly believes in it, and he firmly believes in making this bet. I mean, he's betting his presidency on this issue, which is probably the most closely and longest held political and economic belief that he's ever had. He's been talking about doing it for 40 years. You think it's a good bet? We'll find out. If it's right, it'll be the ballsiest thing that ever happened, and if it's wrong, the consequences will fall on one shoulder.
Yeah, except no. I mean, yeah, sure, I guess they'll fall on his shoulders, but his shoulders are barely going to be staying upright for that much longer. It's not really much of a risk when it's his presidency, sure, but it's his last term that he can serve, and he probably won't survive past that point for much longer. The consequences are going to fall on tens of millions of shoulders. They already are. People's 401ks being decimated, businesses going under, people losing their jobs. Scott Jennings, even here where he's exercising a little bit of independence from Donald Trump, still seems to only have eyes for Donald Trump and not for the many people, the many conservatives, the many Trump voters who are going to and indeed are already losing everything thanks to Donald Trump. You could spin it as he did, as ideological attachment to the idea of tariffs. I might present it as the increasingly deranged, deluded, deteriorating brain of a guy who doesn't know to listen to all of those around him telling him it's a terrible idea. But either way, that's Scott Jennings, and we'll discuss in a sec. We're going to go to a few more people on Fox Business and CNBC who normally are pretty defensive towards Donald Trump, maybe not in this case.
Are in disbelief and don't think that a Peter Navarro, for instance, who's a very fine man, or a Besson wouldn't go in, maybe a Ludwig wouldn't go to the president and say, look, we don't really want to crash. You don't want to be a smart line. Maybe you do the TikTok deal. Maybe you say, look, but here's a way to cure things, which was the way that NVIDIA did with Taiwan. But they could have a crash. I don't see why not. I mean, why would you buy stocks?
Let us hope that the cooler heads do prevail. One time shall tell, and eventually the cooler heads will prevail. But for right now, cooler heads are not prevailing. Right now, angry heads are prevailing, and right now, circumstances are prevailing that sends stock prices much lower than where they are right now.
What the market is worried about is what's going to happen in the future. Who's going to hire now in this uncertain environment? I think people are very, very concerned, and that's why, again, we need to get to work. We need to act on negotiating now. We need to get tax cuts now. We need to get deregulation now to make a difference before this gets out of control the other way.
Again, literally handing billions of dollars to the richest people. What is that going to do to stimulate the economy at this point? People aren't going to have money. They're not going to be buying anything. Thus, less products will be sold, less services will be rendered. Jobs will have to be cut as a result of it. And thanks to the reciprocal tariffs, which we're already seeing, like from China, 34% on the things we'd normally sell to them, jobs are going to be lost. Elon Musk having an extra $20 billion isn't going to save the economy. And so obviously they're going to spin it the way they are. But it's pretty clear from Fox and from the business network there that they don't see much good coming out of this in the short term.
Yeah, so it's, first of all, think about it from China and other folks we trade with, their perspective. So a lot of times, some of the smaller players and even some mid-sized players panicked over the tariff threats in the first term and in the beginning of this term, right? Now they're not doing that at all. They're doing the exact opposite. They're like, oh, you want to play? Okay, then we'll go reciprocal on you. Because remember, Trump didn't go reciprocal. He did this weird calculation where you take the trade deficit and divide it by imports. It's made up, like ludicrous. That's why the numbers are so freaking high. So China's like, oh, okay, so you went nuclear, then I'll go nuclear. And they did. And then that crashed the market worse because it was like a tiny bit of recovery until China said, we'll match what Trump's doing. Now, it's not like the Chinese can't see our stock market. They see it crashing. It's not like they can't see our media. They see everybody panicking, right? So then they double down on this, which is logical. Then Europe was going to do the same thing. Canada, Mexico are going to do the same thing. The whole world's going to do the same thing. So you think they're going to cave into Trump now? No, they got him on the ropes. But more than that, they have us on the ropes because this was dumb. So we've talked about this now for over a week. You do targeted tariffs, you're going to build up manufacturing. You do it particular to an industry. You do it knowing that you're going to have to do it for 2, 3, 5, or 10 years, right? And if you are really planning to do these type of nuclear tariffs for 5 to 10 years, there'll be no economy. There'll be no global trade left. This is mental. It makes no sense at all. So I'm going to get to why they're doing this in a second. So now, since they don't have any incentive to compromise it at all, how are we going to get out of this mess? So there's folks on the right who really believe, no, everything's going to be fine. Totally fine. We're like, the markets, guys, the stock market's not the relevant. The stock market, for me, is a leading indicator in this case. Because when a lot of people are going to get fired because companies don't have as much money anymore, and it's not targeted towards a bad guy industry. Oh, like the health insurance companies, their whole business model is to rob us. So if they got hit on the stock market, I wouldn't care at all, right? I'd want to have a transition plan for the people who work in that industry, right? That's what thoughtful people do. That's what people who believe in strategy, right? They don't just go in like, oh, you guys do it, do everyone, like 1,000,000%, right? And so you're right wingers, you really think that he's going to keep these tariffs for the whole 4 years? I can't believe you guys think that. That's not even close to true. I think he'd be lucky to keep it for 4 days. And the reason why we're showing you clip after clip so you're right wingers, you really think that he's going to keep these tariffs for the whole 4 years? I can't believe you guys think that. They don't just go in like, so if they got hit on the stock market, I wouldn't care at all, right? I'd want to have a transition plan for the people who work.
Bye.